other names that are you see.
We're live.
Are we live, Dan?
It says waiting for Lambton Shores right now.
He tells me we're live streaming.
Took a while to get up to Grand Bend.
There we go. It's live now.
There we go. 6:59.
Just in time.
There, the clock has turned over to 7 o'clock. Welcome, everyone, and I will call this meeting to order. Tuesday, June the 2nd, electronic meeting for Lambton Shores Council. I would ask if anyone has a pecuniary interest to declare it, either now or when it comes up. Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. And Councillor Scott and Councillor Sageman. Any questions on the agenda? All in favor of approving the agenda? That's carried. Thank you. We have no items tonight dealing with the closed session. Item number 5 is the minutes of the previous council meeting from May 12th. Recommendation to be adopted as presented. Deputy Mayor Cook and Councillor Scott move those. Any questions regarding the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of that, the minutes from May the 12th? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor reports. Anyone been traveling afar and doing things? Councillor Scott.
I haven't been going too far, but I've been getting a lot of phone calls. I've had phone calls about speed on Outer Drive. That goes as well down in Ipperwash, down the 3 main roads. They've been pretty upset about the driving and the people going at large clips. So just wanted to bring that up and wondered if we could have some of the speed things. I know on the 1 Ipperwash Road, we have a speed thing attached to a pole, but I'm wondering if we could have the trailer down in some of these spots at some point in the future. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Steve, is that okay?
Yep, we'll take that note and see make staff aware, so that's good.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I've talked to Kevin about this already, but there's a lot of Ipperwash beach issues to do with the M&R lots, but the human feces is the one that seems to be the most upsetting to people because the parking lots aren't open. So I'm wondering if we could maybe do some talking to M&R from our end and ask them to do something about that. If the parking lots are to be opened, and I know they don't want to maintain the washrooms, I think people would rather see the feces in the washrooms than out in the sand. And then I've had a couple comments about Steve was going to do the marina report, and I'm just kind of curious if I could have some sort of an idea of the date to come back. The boaters are now afraid that if we don't get a report back ASAP, that perhaps we'll miss another season. And I know that we've accommodated a lot of people, and those people are very, very grateful for the work we've done and the help that they've gotten to accommodate their boats. It's just others just want to make sure that we're moving forward. I assured them we were, but I just wanted to bring that up, hoping that we might have an idea when the date is. And then I have 2 kudos that I want to pass on. I want to pass on kudos to the fire department for their reaction to Arcona and getting that woman up, the rappelling up and handling that. That was absolutely fantastic. We looked amazing. So kudos to our fire chief and his crew. And the other one is the Windsor Park beside Christine's, the ramp. Steve had his guys go in there and put stones down and build up the property beside the house there that was starting to wash away. The land was. So big kudos from them, and big thanks to the staff and to Steve's group for doing a bang up job and fixing the problem. They're thrilled. So there's good and there's bad. Sorry, guys. I'm done.
Those issues are noted, and I'm sure staff's working on them. We'd like to do everything we can to maintain beaches. The washrooms, I know have been discussions with M&R about that, so we'll keep
That's great.
following up
Thank
on them. Any other council reports? Seeing none, just everyone's following what's going on with the COVID and the province. I understand have extended to June now.
End of June, yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on things and do what we can to keep everybody safe, and at different ways of possibly opening some things a little bit to service some areas. So Councillor Scott, another.
A question to that, Mayor Bill. You're getting the phone calls in the morning for the COVID-19, I understand. So I'm just wondering what the updates are on deaths and stuff. The radio hasn't been really giving too much information when I've had it on. So I'm just wondering how many new cases in the general area of Lambton County.
I'm not sure of the numbers right now, but those details are all available if you go to Lambton Public Health. And they have a detailed report on there that's updated every day with the number of cases at the different, the number of outbreaks at long-term care homes. And it's all there. Councillor Sageman showing there the website. So it's quite available and it's quite detailed. It has graphs and curves and everything if you go to the detailed report. And I know that's on the Lambton Shores website for the public to access, and that's where you get the best information, most up to date.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other councillor reports, we have no statutory public meetings. But we do have a presentation, and I welcome Sarah to give us a presentation on the business retention and expansion report. Welcome. I'll turn it over to you, and mute my microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So yeah, I was brought on. My name is Sarah Williams. I was brought on for help with the business retention and expansion report. Can you guys hear me okay? It's all good. Okay. Oh, right. I will share my screen. Sorry, just one moment. This will help. So a business retention and expansion report basically is looking at what is either keeping or making businesses leave in the community, and then what are the opportunities to be able to help them grow so that they do stay here, so that they attract other businesses, etc. So as per OMAFRA, a BRNE study or the program allows eligible organizations like the municipality to support local businesses so that they can grow and create jobs to support the residential population here. It also allows to write and implement an action plan to foster business development, investment, and of course, job creation, as well as collecting business and market data to support economic development planning now and in the future. So at the very beginning of this study, we determined 3 goals for the BRNE project here in Lambton Shores. Number 1 was to support the Economic Development Action Plan. Number 2 was to build and foster relationships between the municipality and local existing local businesses. Number 3 was to explore opportunities for Lambton Shores to provide further services and support to local businesses ultimately to encourage growth, retention, and attraction, and to support the population here. So for any BRNE, including the one for Lambton Shores, there are 4 phases. So phase 1 is preparation. This is basically determining what those goals are, what questions need to be asked for the most effective study. Phase 2 is collect and analyze. So this is where I went and spoke one-on-one with local business owners. Most of the interviews were done in person in order to foster that relationship. But due to some time constraints, some were also done over the phone. Phase 3 is the action plan. So developing these recommendations that I'm presenting to you today. But another big part of phase 3 was the community consultation that happened mid-January. Sorry, the sun is very bad placement. Was the community consultation that happened in Port Franks mid-January, where I believe 16 people showed up, which was pretty impressive considering the really bad storm that happened that day. But that was to go over the data that was found, brainstorm solutions that played a big part into the recommendations provided here. And then phase 4 is implementation, so ongoing as this BRNE is implemented in the future. So you guys have all of this information in the report, so I won't spend too much time on the actual data, but I do want to pull out some key insights as we throughout this that stood out. So just to go over this briefly about who was interviewed and why. 63 businesses were interviewed total. OMAFRA recommends at least doing 30, so we were good on that aspect. With an estimated 360 businesses approximately in Lambton Shores. This is based off of business directories from multiple sources, which a key priority for me and for the project and us was to try and get the participants that data to reflect as real a representation of Lambton Shores as possible. So not only in each community, we wanted the businesses to be represented, or each community to be represented proportionally, but also industry as well. So that is why those decisions were made. And then again, I won't go over everything, but some notable trends were that, for example, here, 35% roughly of business owners want to expand their workforce. Unfortunately, 60% of those interviewed found that it was really hard to attract and retain staff. So while there may be intentions to expand, it may not be possible to do so with the current resources. And then as well, so this question over here we asked those interviewed, what keeps you up at night as a business owner? And while 30% said nothing keeps me up at night, that was also often followed by, I've been doing this for too long to care. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the top 3 things after that are finding and managing staff. So again, workforce was a hot topic during these interviews. Managing and acquiring finances, and then finding customers as well. This question was, what do you think makes you stand out? Why do people come to you? What are your differentiators? And the top 3 stood out very clearly. The knowledge I have, the customer experience I offer, and the specific product line that I have and offer the community. This question is probably more relevant now because of COVID, but before these interviews, which happened in the fall, 56% of those interviewed didn't have a website for their business. And 48% planned on maintaining what they currently did with their website with social media. So this, again, something to keep in mind, may have shifted over the last little bit with COVID and obviously some business circumstances changing, but this was the situation before him. And for succession planning, just something to point out quickly here. So 48% of people have identified what they are going to do with their business when they are ready to leave it. But 38% don't have a plan yet. And this could be due to someone who has just started a business and they're not even thinking about getting out yet. But that is just a number to keep in mind. So that was a very quick recap of the data, but in sake of time, it is all in the report. And from that data collected and from the discussion at the community consultation, there were 4 main pillars or umbrellas that the recommendations fell under. Number 1 is increased communication and collaboration. This is not only with Lambton Shores, but also amongst business owners. Number 2 is support a diverse workforce. Number 3 is municipal support and services. So what can the municipality specifically offer? And number 4 is business attraction. The recommendations are split into 3 timeframes: immediate, within the next 2 years, near term 3 to 5, and then long term is more than 5 years. Just to keep in mind as we go through this. So a very common theme discussed was the need for clearer communication, more opportunities for collaboration. Again, not just with the municipality, but also with business owners across Lambton Shores. So business owners not necessarily wanting to stick to the community that they're in, but also communicate and collaborate with businesses across all communities within Lambton Shores. So from that, recommendation 1, facilitate the creation of a Lambton Shores-wide business group. Whatever this looks like, it would come down to bringing business owners together, figuring out what works for them and how they want to collaborate. 1.2 is establish regular communication with updates on business news and events. So this would most likely look like a newsletter of some sort, whether it is built into the current newsletter or something separate specifically for business owners. But once those channels have been established, it can lead to 1.3. So when you can start to, or when Lambton Shores can start to coordinate networking and learning opportunities for business owners across Lambton Shores. So this would be working with the local business owners as well as partners such as Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership and being that bridge between those 2 groups. Pillar number 2 is support a diverse workforce. So 2.1 is near term. So once again, those channels have been established. Training sessions with businesses and learning partners can start to be coordinated, whether it is determined that businesses need WMIS training or how to manage your team. Those types of trainings, whatever is identified, can start to be coordinated. And then 2.2, collaborate with educational institutions such as the high school or post-secondary institutions to strengthen the co-op placement program. So a lot of this is the municipality being a bridge between existing resources and the businesses that are here, but centralizing that in a way that makes it more efficient and supportive to the local businesses. 2.3 is coordinate and host an annual job fair. So with business groups, with partners such as Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership or Sarnia-Lambton Business Development Corporation, and of course, local businesses, getting everyone together for an annual job fair. Pillar number 3 is municipal support and services. So I would recommend, in the very short term, dedicating primary municipal contact for business and economic development. So having someone that businesses know they can go to ask their questions, communicate with, and someone dedicated to seeing out the execution of this action plan. 3.2 is conduct a community improvement plan. So this is creating a plan specifically looking at revitalization and rehabilitation projects. So this is looking through a business lens, but also a residential lens and tourism lens as well. 3.3 is expand the municipal website to include a digital business resource and information center. So again, this is centralizing information that currently exists in multiple places. So there is a way that it can be streamlined for local businesses through the municipality in a very user-friendly way. And 3.4 is establish a business resource center. So not digital, but working with partners such as potentially the county and using spaces like public libraries when not in use to bring in resources like Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership to offer trainings in those spaces, or having consultants there to help business owners as needed. whatever those business resource centers look, I believe there's an opportunity to use resources that currently exist to better support businesses. 3.5 and 3.6 are again about centralization, establishing a Lambton Shores business directory and establishing a Lambton Shores commercial space listing directory would both make it easier to find information and provide services not only to residents who may want to know what businesses exist, how to contact them, but also to improve collaboration opportunities amongst businesses as well. And pillar number 4, the last one, is business attraction. So 4.1, again, with the providing business resources on the Lambton Shores website, there's currently a starting a business in Lambton Shores section. However, I do believe that this could be enhanced and positioned more as come to our community where your partner in growing your business, instead of just providing information that directs them away right away. 4.2, community positioning project, establishing a brand for each community from a business and destination perspective. And I say that because I don't mean to move away from the overall Lambton Shores brand that's been established for tourism and residents, but this is more for how can we determine what businesses to attract in each community to make it a shopping destination or a tourist destination. And then with that, of course, comes their support services and other businesses that way. 4.3, attract and encourage new businesses and vacant properties through pitch competitions. So I'm sure you have heard of the Win This Space competitions that have been going around Southwestern Ontario and elsewhere. Sarnia Lambton Business Development Corporation, I believe, has been involved with a few already. So it could be partnering with them to bring some of those competitions here to generate entrepreneurship and foster that culture here and get people into spaces. 4.4 is establish a long-term promotional campaign to attract and encourage development, retail, and services. So this is long-term thinking. How do we position Lambton Shores as a place to do business? What does that campaign look like over a long period of time? And this could again be partnering with Sarnia Lambton Economic Partnership. Any questions?
First of all, thank you for that report. A lot of work went into that and well presented. So, are there any questions for Sarah, Deputy Mayor Cook?
Just more the comment than a question, Mayor. The fact that we had 16 people come out to that really crappy night in January speaks well to the fact that people were very involved and wanted to get interested and really update this plan and move it forward. The concerns were right across the county, or across municipality from what you could hear that night. There's folks from Grand Bend, Forest. So they were sharing ideas back and forth with each other. Even people that I'm sure weren't even really considered business community. There was a farmer was there who was involved in it, and he wasn't really directly involved with retail or anything, but he just wanted to be involved because he thinks the business community needs to get going forward in Lambton Shores. So it's really it was a good premise undertaken. I thank Sarah for the work she did, and I hope we can really get some movement to move this thing forward with it, whether it's staff involvement or what it's going to take. But I believe it's a really good initiative to start right now.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, there's a recommendation that it be received and that it be adopted as presented. Councillor Sageman, you would move that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Dwyer, second that. Is there further questions? Okay. Somebody's freezing up there. Questions, further questions? Councillor Dodge, you're on mute. There you go.
Can't hear me?
And now?
Okay, now?
Yep, you're good.
I guess I have no problems with the motion, but what will be the follow-up? What's gonna, as the deputy suggests, it's an important issue. So what's gonna keep it on the table opposed to being put in a drawer? that's a position council has to make some decisions on, I think, right now.
And so the, who wants to speak to that? I guess how we take that report, Ashley?
Well, maybe I can address Sarah. I presume that she has done her job, made this presentation, held meetings, so forth. So she can say, I've given you the info, it's now in your hands. Well, maybe we need Sarah to do more. And if she's talking about a municipal club group, maybe we have to get Sarah to get the group started. And she has the knowledge of what she's laid out here and can speak to a group and maybe encourage some excitement. That has to be there. And who else has got that ability right now?
Ashley is with us tonight, and I think she has some comments regarding how we put this in place and go forward.
And that's good too.
My mic off.
But it's important it goes forward. That's my point. And not buried.
Cool.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So some of the recommendations found in the plan can be implemented by the existing staff complement, I believe. However, any recommendation that has a budget implication will come back to council for discussion during budget time.
May, your worship. Can you hear me?
Councillor Scott.
I'm wondering if we could make an amendment to that motion and add to it that we would implement it. And that can be asking for a report. I have no issues with that, but I'd like to make an amendment that we get a report on how to implement this.
If we adopt the plan, is that not implementing it or putting it to?
Not necessarily, Your Honor.
Okay. It's adding the word that we business retention expansion study and action plan be adopted and presented and
Implemented, so like to and get a report on the implementation of it.
I guess and implemented would be the action items that are listed there that are immediate are the things that we would go forward with and work on the rest of it. So, Councillor Wilcox.
Well, I don't disagree with what the other councilors are saying. We need to follow through with this report, but we're still in another lockdown here for a month.
Yeah.
So we're not in a regular business environment right now. So I think there'd be some extreme challenges to staff to try to push some of these forward until we can get our business flywheel or machine going again. And then I totally agree. We need to follow up with this and start implementing it. But I don't think this is something that was going to be really short term. This is more something that's setting a guideline for us for years down the road, and to just keep at it and keep doing what we can when we can. Is if we're thinking we're going to see an immediate return on this report, we've seen the largest fall in economy in the history. So, you know, I think we just need to receive it right now and make sure staff is aware of when they can move forward. And when we get back to an environment where we can even have meetings and have business people around, start working from there. But I don't think it's something we were necessarily putting a timeline on, just as a comment.
Okay. I have Councillor Sageman next, and then I think Councillor Goodhand wants to.
Thank you. I was just concerned about adding the word implementation to the motion, maybe a report on how to implement it. But if we say we're going to implement the plan, that means we're going to do it all.
That's what I asked
And
for.
so maybe a report would be the way to go rather than just strictly implementing it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Goodhand, did you have a comment? You're muted. You have to click the unmute button. Sorry, Rick, I can't hear you. Still tap your microphone button.
Rick, you have to unmute.
It's not. Can the host unmute Rick? Okay. Sorry, Rick. We can't
Write
hear
it
you,
on a
Rick.
piece of paper and hold it up. We'll be able to see it.
Your headphones maybe is something that's turned it off. No.
Mr. Mayor, we have a motion on the floor, and I understand there's an amendment to that motion. Can you read the amendment so we can vote on that first? And then conclude the original motion? I don't know what was said.
I think I would call it as a friendly amendment. It's just adding the implementation, a report on the timelines for an implementation.
That's correct.
And did we have a seconder? Did we have a seconder?
I believe I seconded.
Okay.
Councillor McGuire is seconded. Councillor Goodhand's still trying to get signed on, and I can't hear whether he can hear us. Can you hear us, Rick? We're not. You have to tap your screen and get the microphone to come up and unmute yourself.
There you go.
Oh,
There you go.
There he is.
try it now.
Can you see me now?
We
Yep.
got.
It
we're
was
both-
Can you
hearing
hear
you.
me?
Yep,
Yes.
we got your
Can you
audio.
hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Now all I got's one big picture though. So that's,
Okay.
I got one big picture of Lori and that's it.
Well, if you tap the screen again someplace, and you should come up with a gallery view, and then you'll get everybody on there. Anyway, we can hear you and see you.
Yep, go to her.
Did you have any comments regarding the motion? The motion is that we received that the presentation be received. I guess, and we were doing that all together. Sorry, that was my fault. And that the recommendation that the expansion plan be received, and that the retention and expansion study and action plan be adopted and presented. And we're asking for a report on the implementation timelines to come back at the next or a future meeting. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further questions on that?
Only thing, this is just. Oh. Hello?
Hello?
I hear you, Jeff. Keep going.
So this is 8.1.1 we're voting on now, correct?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, all good.
With the addition, I guess, of the 8 presentation, receiving the presentation. 8.1, I should have did first, I guess. Anyway, we're receiving the presentation plus 8.1.1 with the addition that we will do a report on the implementation timelines.
Good with
All in
that.
favor? In favor? Okay, opposed? I think everybody's in favor of that. Thank you, and thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that report and presentation, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 9. There now, everyone should be able to see everyone again. We move on to item number 9, and that is delegations. We had no requests for delegations the proper or through the channels regarding the time. Council did receive a few letters this afternoon that were sent to all of council, and we acknowledge those letters. I hope everyone had the chance to read them, and I got a thumbs up there. So that was, so we had letters regarding the tree protection bylaws, and there's the 10.1. We'll go on to 10.1, which is the tree protection bylaw. And there's a report there that it be received.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Dodge.
I talked to the clerk, Stephanie, today. I asked her to prepare a motion that we not just accept this report, but that we do look into a bylaw. And if she could read that motion that was prepared, I need a seconder.
I'll second that.
Let's just deal with the report to start with. That's on the agenda, and we can receive the report, and then we can have a follow-up motion from that to do what you're asking to do, which is get a report. By receiving the report, we're just receiving the information. And then we can have a follow-up motion that's asking for what you're asking for. So Councillor McGuire to receive the report. What is it? Report 04/2020. Second by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Marsh. Moved by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Marsh. This is just receiving the report. And then we'll go on to Councillor Dodge's further motions. Questions? Councillor Scott?
No, I was waiting. I thought you were going to call the vote.
Deputy Mayor Cook.
Well, thank you. I don't know where Councilor Dodge is going with the motion, but I know we did have, I received a phone call today from Max Morton, and I received his correspondence to follow up to that. He's made a good comment in there about starting an environmental action committee possibly. And this might be something that could be factored in if we were looking forward to doing something like that. If maybe going forward, that might be something to consider for we are a very environmentally sensitive area, and there's something maybe we should look at possibly going down the road. And something like this would maybe work well with a committee like that to come back with recommendations on structure and how, if there was a bylaw going to be presented, how it could actually come back to council for a recommendation. I just don't know if we could create a bylaw just off the top of our head to say how it would work without having public input or any kind of input from other folks to provide us with direction on it. So that's just my comment.
Okay. Councillor Scott?
I had a number of phone calls on the same issue today, but I do want to make a comment about a gentleman in Port Franks that the neighbors were appalled at the fact that he took all his trees down and then made a fence that is tree on tree, like the long logs are lengthwise and the trees are piled on top of that. As a result of what this gentleman did without a bylaw, because Chris went out there to see him, the bylaw officer, and there was nothing he could charge him with. And so the fact that this guy went in and took every living tree down without really considering how it looked kind of in the neighborhood, people have put their house up for sale because of it. So I really think that we need to take a good, serious look at this.
Okay. Councillor Wilk.
Your worship. Well, I would like to point out that it was that gentleman's property. And the lawn in my front yard, the trees in my yard, they're my property. And if I choose to cut a nuisance tree down, that's my decision.
They weren't
Now,
nuisance.
for a tree protection program that we've got on environmentally sensitive lands, on government lands and the county lands, I'm all for it. I know somebody that had to cut down a 300-year-old oak tree to expand their business, and I pled with them not to cut that tree down. It's been here 300 years, but he said he couldn't afford to buy another lot to put his business on. So I would hate to create more bureaucracy over privately owned trees on private property. I understand where people are coming from, and I had a conversation with the mayor earlier today. So if I'm told I can't cut a large tree down off my property and it falls down and lands on my neighbor's property, who's liable? The municipality? Because I sure aren't. So all I'm getting at is I can understand why we want to save trees. I'm all for it, but I am not looking at creating more bureaucracy on private land that we can't properly enforce anyways, because after they come down, they're down. That's what I got.
Thank you for that. And we'll, right now, we're receiving this report, and then I'll look for a further motion, whether it be from Councillor Dodge. We'll see where that goes, and whether it's more consultation on developing a bylaw. But right now, receive this report for information. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of that motion? Carried, thank you. And so Councillor Dodge, you had a motion that you were looking to make.
Yes, I would ask if the clerk could read that.
I'm going to turn my mic off here. So
See me? Hi. The motion is that staff prepare a tree protection bylaw that would apply to both public and private properties in Lambton Shores.
okay. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Scott?
I would do a second if we could, in that report, also have information on from the Echo Tree people, from people like that. If we could do a consultation like Deputy Mayor Cook said, if we could get more input from maybe the public versus and from people. I think that there needs to be something.
Okay. Councillor McGuire, you had your hand up earlier. I'll let you speak. Sorry.
Yes, Your Worship. I know I've talked to Max too about the Eco Group, and I know they want to come to council and present to us about their organization and what they could do. But there's also best practices, as the report speaks, in other municipalities that we could get in the report back for a bylaw creation. What would work best for us? What are some? And again, we're going to meet some of these challenges that Councillor Wilcox spoke about. There is the private landowner issue as well, and I don't think the object is to take away every person's right to remove a tree, but make people pause and think, okay, well, is there something else I can do? Or is it, if you take a tree down, you plant one kind of thing? So I'd just like to see a bylaw come back with some opportunities.
Okay. Councillor Sageman and then Councillor Wilcox.
Yeah, thank you. Further to what everyone else is saying, I just think that before we do the bylaw, there needs to be a fair bit of public consultation. I did get 3 or 4 phone calls today, and we did get those 3 letters. And I agree with Councillor Wilcox's comments that it's a slippery slope when you start saying that there are trees that can't be cut down. I wouldn't want to go ahead and render individual building lots or properties unbuildable, because that could happen if we were restricting cutting of certain trees. So I think that the sort of public input process is probably really important on this one. Thank you.
Councillor Wilcox.
Well, I totally agree with what Councillor Sageman was saying. That was one of the points I wanted to make. It's an extremely slippery slope, and I do believe the county tried to do a county-wide tree cutting bylaw on agricultural lands, And it was such a uproar about it in the county from farm owners that they had to put that away. They didn't move forward with it. And I think we've had a little bit of input now. I totally understand why there's a lot of people that like to see this happen, but without a public consultation, I think if we have a public consultation, you'll find there'd be a far more people against putting more restrictions and more bureaucracy on private land. I just don't see where the necessity is right now at this time for private landowners. And also my 20 years of making rules and my other business is if you can't equally enforce a rule, don't make the rule, because it could cost hundreds to millions of dollars to enforce this. So there's my input. We'll see what council decides from there.
Okay. So I'm kind of hearing two thoughts on this. One is we're going to do a bylaw to protect the trees on residential properties, and the other is we need to look into it and have a public consultation and involve the eco network in consultation and come up with a workable bylaw down the road. So I guess that's not what Councillor Dodge's motion is saying, but I guess I'm wondering if we can work this into something that we establish a process for consultation with the eco network and other interested parties on producing a workable bylaw for tree preservation in Lambton Shores. Is that a suitable wording? Somebody get that down?
Well, what does the motion on the floor say?
The motion on the floor is the one that Stephanie read.
Yes, please.
The motion that you had, that we establish a tree preservation bylaw for residential properties in Lambton Shores. Public and private.
Okay. That's a pretty basic motion.
Yep.
That can be added to. I wasn't intending that God comes down and says this what shall happen. It certainly should be a committee of consultation with the public. I agree with that 100%. You're going to have to go to the public process. You're going to have to. The idea is that, for instance, Councillor Wilcox said, you're not going to tell me to cut a tree down on my property. I don't think I want to tell you to cut your tree down. I want to tell you, you cut the tree down, but you're going to pay something into a tree account that we can establish as a community and replace that tree. Take them all down, but you're going to have to pay per tree a permit or something. No, don't say.
We just collected money then?
No, we're going to put it into
Is
replacing
No.
trees
What are you doing?
where they can go. As a community, as a municipality, we're cutting trees all the time.
Well,
If you were in
trees
forest,
replant themselves.
Oh, just a minute.
whoa,
We have, I guess this is taking us to where we are here in Lambton
We need to
Shores.
have a public meeting if we're going to do anything on this. Like slippery slope.
Just what I'm saying
well,
is,
I disagree. It's a slippery slope.
Oh, it's a slippery slope because you'll see at a public meeting.
what I think we need to. Okay,
The county couldn't even do it. The county.
Councillor Wilcox, just a second. Let's assume it's really hard. What we need to do is have consultation with the public. We have to look at what our existing policies are with our trees, because we do have a pretty good tree policy in Lambton Shores, and we have to make sure everybody's aware of that. So we need to do the consultation. We need to report back on getting how we're going to do the consultation to develop what we want for trees. I guess what is the problem we're trying to solve here? Is that everybody's cutting trees down willy-nilly, or are they cutting trees down because they're building homes? Or that whole thing has to come through the public process of consultation with the Eco Tree Network.
Some people cut trees down to heat their homes,
Yes.
to heat them. This is sustaining.
So I think to clarify, or maybe to bring this back to where this originated from, is we have, most of us moved to this area because of the environment, because of the trees. And there's a certain ethos in keeping the trees on our properties and things like that for their appearance or whatever reason. We've had, in recent years, we've had people that have moved to this area, or businesses, that rather than selectively taking trees down, they've clear cut properties. They've wanted to establish large lawns in the woods and things like that. So they've ended up cutting way more trees than the neighbors would have liked to see done. And I don't think it's about forcing you to keep a tree or cut a tree, or forcing you to not heat with wood or any of that. I think it's more about preserving the natural environment that drew people to this area in the first place. So I think that a carefully crafted bylaw that has extensive public consultation can be a good thing. I don't think it needs to be as restrictive as is being talked about. I think it just needs to be something where if somebody's proposing to cut down every tree on the property, maybe they have to look at a site plan and say, you're going to keep 10% or 20%, saving some of the tree canopy, the existing older trees. I think that's where this is coming. That's my interpretation of where this is coming from. Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Mr. Mayor, I think with this simplicity of Councillor Dodge's motion that he's put forward and that I seconded, you can use any process you want to get to that setting up of a bylaw. So I don't think that it's wrong. I think that it will do everything that you have just said you want to do, that Councillor Sageman has said, that Councillor Wilcox has said. I think if we just have the simplistic motion forward, it doesn't say that staff has to go back and create that bylaw tomorrow. They can use whatever method they need to go ahead and do that. So I think that if we just go ahead with what we already have there without changing it, it will do the same thing as changing it. I mean, we're looking for a bylaw. So in order to do a bylaw, you have to do the research and the homework to find it. So that's all we're asking for. We're not asking to have a black and white object. We're asking to have the availability to be able to go forward and put things together. That's all.
So can I have the motion that Councillor Dodge read back again, please?
That staff prepare a tree protection bylaw that would apply to both public and private properties in Lambton Shores.
So do the research on top of it.
That to me, that says staff's going to prepare a bylaw and bring it back. It's not going to say there's any public consultation or there's any participation from the ecotourism group that has asked to be part of this. And
well, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, add it to that motion, whatever is going to make that happen. I didn't intend that staff's going to bring a bylaw back to the next council meeting and that's voted on. That's the law of the land. I expect it to be some type of communication with people. The people that phoned me today, the people that wrote letters today have an interest and a reason for being interested. So include whatever is going to, I'm not trying to make a law for tomorrow night. It's going to be something that's worked out over. And after this, I have another thing to ask you as the warden.
If we can add that to the
you can add whatever you want.
Okay.
Stephanie, adjust it.
I leave it up to Stephanie to say the nice words. I do everything in short form.
I'm wanting to make sure that when the public who's watching this meeting, the Eco Tree Network, knows that we're going to do consultation with them. The motion that was presented that didn't have that included. So the idea here is to make sure that that's included as part of the motion so that it's not a report or a bylaw coming back, and it won't be next week, it won't be next meeting, it'll be through a public consultation process.
And that's fine with me to add that. Okay.
Okay, so the motion is changed to add that. The seconder, Councillor Scott, you're okay with that?
I am absolutely okay.
So what is
Further
the motion now, Your Worship?
Councillor Wilcox, pardon?
What is the motion now?
Like the last one,
No,
please.
you're gonna do that in front of the meeting?
Staff prepared tree protection bylaw.
Yes. They can't hear you.
We fancied up that staff prepare a tree protection bylaw that would apply to both public and private properties, Lambton Shores, including public consultation and review of existing policies.
It's fine.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. What is the motion?
It's the motion that's there, but it includes private or public consultation with interested parties and review of existing tree policies in Lambton Shores.
So is that a full public meeting where public can attend, or is that just soliciting information? Because you solicit information, you're only going to hear from the people that, like, we only heard, what, 5 letters today and a couple phone calls?
The public consultation, we'll look at our normal practices for public consultation dealing with issues and develop a process to make sure that it'll be circulated different ways prior to being brought to council.
So is the intent a full public meeting before it's implemented?
There'll possibly a survey sent out, different things that we do to get public input on issues.
Well, like, see, we're beating around the bush even how we're going to do this. We can't even have a public meeting right now. Like, I get what it is people are wanting. They want us to do some more research on this, but like, to drive a bylaw through without having any public consultation, especially during these times, I got a real problem with it.
There's no time put on this, so I think we'll if we can go through with this motion, we'll get what the public consultation is, and possibly we'll get a further report prior to that on just how the timelines are coming in and where we're going with that. And I'm seeing
recorded vote, please.
All right. Any other questions? And I will try to state the motion again, and understand, please, that the word may be a little off, but it's that staff prepare tree preservation bylaw for public and private lands within Lambton Shores through a public consultation process and consultation with interested parties, and review of existing Lambton Shores tree policies. And it's been asked for a recorded vote by Councillor Wilcox, so I will mute my microphone and turn it back to the clerk to do the recorded vote.
Councillor Wilcox?
No.
Nice. Councillor Marsh?
Yes.
Yes. Can we do this or this? I'll start again. Councillor Wilcox?
Nay.
That was a nay.
Councillor Marsh?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Goodhand?
Muted again.
Councillor Goodhand? Yes? No.
Yes.
Was it yes?
Yes.
I can't get a yes or no, Rick. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, please. Thumbs up, that's a yes.
Councillor Dodge?
Thumbs up,
Yes,
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Cook?
thumbs up,
Thank you. Councillor McGuire?
thumbs up.
Councillor Sageman?
Yes, look at that, got a sign. Show me the
Councillor
sign.
Scott?
Counselor, thumbs up,
Mayor Weaver?
thumbs up.
Motion is carried. Thank you.
Okay,
Uh,
that was interesting. Counselor
Mayor?
Marsh?
Yes, to,
Oh, I know, there you go. Counselor
this,
Marsh?
this report that does come back, we as a council can turn it down, is that correct? Just to relieve Mr. like Councilor Wilcox, this is not going to be rammed through. So,
Oh, I get that, but
Okay.
you know, it's a no on principle because it's going to be no when it comes back on private land. If we take private land out of it,
Okay, we're not gonna have the debate right now.
no, we can't.
We've had the motion. Counselor Sageman, you have a question?
Yeah, just a point of order as we go forward here, just because these Zoom meetings are the new normal for everybody. I think that we all need to remember to both mute our mics and maybe raise our hand to speak, just because we're still in a council meeting, just so that we retain some sense of order. That would be helpful, I think, for all of us. Thank you.
You appreciate that. I agree with that. 10.2, there's a recommendation that the respecting the new provincial policy statement be received. Deputy Mayor Cook, seconded by Councillor McGuire. Any questions regarding that? Deputy Mayor Cook.
Thank you. To our planner, does this change our requirement for what we have for building right now? Will, do we have to accommodate more land for the next 20 years as opposed to the time frame that we had before? Or are we set for what we're doing?
I think through the mayor, I believe we already have sufficient land designation on a municipal basis for more than the 20 years. So 25 years, I think we do have land there. It's probably more an issue of how it's distributed within the municipality and the availability of that land that is designated and the ability to service.
Okay.
Yep. So just to follow up to that one then, I know at the county level, they were concerned when other municipalities were expanding their areas to a very, very large area. For example, our neighbor wanted to put a very large development into their area, which is going to take about 40 or 50 years worth of land use out of production. Would that affect us negatively to do that?
The provincial policy statement requires us to look at, well, it requires coordination at the upper tier level as well. And the county official plan also designates land. So there may be situations to designate more land where we have to amend the county official plan. And in that case, they're going to look at land supply on a countywide basis, not just in Lambton Shores. So it's possible that the designations in other municipalities may impact our ability. But Lambton Shores as a whole, we have a pretty healthy supply of land. Generally, we do have the ability to rotate the land, so to speak. If there are areas that aren't likely to develop or not suitable for development, perhaps areas in floodplains or things like that, we can take that land and designate it elsewhere without having to go through some of the comprehensive review requirements that otherwise would apply.
Okay. Did I get a motion for this? I got the motion for this. Okay. So any further questions for that? All in favor with that? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Will. Item number 10.3 is changes to development charges and parkland dedication. And there's a recommendation that charges be received. Moved by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Wilcox. Any questions or comments regarding this? Seeing none, all in favor of that? That is carried. Thank you. And that's all the reports for our planner. Thank you, Will. 10.4 is Grand Bend Plan 24 speed limit reduction. There's a reduction that the report be received and that staff be directed to prepare a consolidated bylaw identifying all 40-kilometer speed zones, including the area of Plan 24 in Grand Bend, and for adoption at a future council meeting. Councillor McGuire, you're moving that, second by Councillor Scott. Any questions regarding that report? I don't see anyone. All in favor of that report? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. 10.5, Grand Bend Beach operations. Report 15, recommendation that they be received. And Lambton Shores Parks and Facilities Bylaw 11 be amended to restrict the use of tents on the Grand Bend Beach and also to prohibit jumping and diving from the Grand Bend Pier. Moved by Councillor Sageman, seconded by Councillor Dodge. Questions regarding that report? Councillor McGuire.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to our Director of Community Services, will we put forward a communication plan like we did last year for when we made changes to the bylaw as far as the tents were concerned?
Through you, Your Worship, yeah, we will do that. We'll have to change our signage as well down there, and we'll have to do a bit of public education, I'm sure. Last year, we used some of our students to just hand out flyers type things when people came. So I would see us doing something similar to that to try and get the word out. And Your Worship, if I can add one thing, one of the things that we were remiss in putting in the report was, and I wanted to make council aware of it, we in addition to what was in the report, we have purchased some new garbage and recycling receptacles for the beach. So you'll see those out this year. There's units that have both the garbage on one side and recycling on the other. So let's try and help clean that up.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. 10.6 is Center Street always stop intersections. And there's a recommendation that the report be received. Councillor McGuire.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Sageman. Questions regarding that? Councillor McGuire.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to the Director of Community Services. Thank you for that report, and I'm satisfied with it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other comments regarding that? Questions? All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you very much. 10 points. He's out. I didn't see him sign out. And we have Janet, and there we see Janet. So we have Treasurer's Report 14 regarding the 2020 tax rates, and the report we received, and that the Bylaw 25 establishing 2020 tax rate for Lambton Shores be approved. Councillor Sageman and Deputy Mayor Cook. Questions regarding that? Councillor Wilcox.
Through you, your worship, to our treasurer. We've got the second quarter taxes in this year. Like, how are they trending compared to last year at this time?
So through you, your worship, staff have been monitoring cash flow as well as the taxes receivable to see where things are at. And as of today, we did a comparison 2018 to 2019 and 2020. Strangely enough, it's all the same. It's consistent at 17% received compared to the taxes billed. What we did notice was a little bit of a up in residential and down in commercial that way, but it's consistent for the last 3 years.
That's good to hear. And we're going to keep an eye on that as a follow-up.
Through your worship, absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you for that. Any other questions regarding that? All in favor of that? It's carried. Thank you very much. And we have clerk's report 10, council compensation and award boundary review, request for proposals. The recommendation that staff be directed to proceed with the evaluation and award of council composition and award boundary review project in accordance with the terms of reference in the request for proposals. Moved by Councillor Dodge, seconded by Councillor Wilcox.
I've got a question on that, your worship.
Go for it.
So I'm under the understanding that this report would be done at not a cost to our taxpayers. There's some other monies that the province kicked in to get this done. Is that true?
Who wants to?
Yeah, so the funding will come from the Municipal Modernization Fund that Lambton Shores received last year. There's
Okay.
allocated funds in that.
And a follow-up to that question, your worship, this report's something that we're going to get back, but that's not something we're looking at implementing for the next election. It's something that we need to get done to look at maybe for the election after that. Is that a fair statement?
No, that's not the intention of the proposal. The project would be to review council composition and ward boundary adjustments for the 2022 election, so the next election.
Well, we're just getting kind of short on time, follow-up, short on time for that. And I'm in support of it if we're gathering the information, but I think it's kind of a tight timeline to do some wholesale changes for that election, especially with the situation we're in. I don't think I can support it if the target is for change for the next election. I thought we'd have a second kick at the cat after this was done.
I guess that's a decision that we can make when we get the report back.
So that's what I'm saying. That the report would come back, then council gets to decide at that time if we want to change. It's not something that it's definite change for the upcoming election. Okay, I can support it.
Yeah, whatever we do comes back to council for approval or not. So at that time of.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay. Speak. Just
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. It would require a bylaw of council in order to change ward boundaries.
Okay.
Okay. Require a bylaw to do that. So we have moved in second to get a request for proposal and go forward with that for consideration by council when it comes back. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. And we're on to notices of motion. Item number 11, I do see any notice of motion submitted. Emergent issues, I see none. Bylaws and resolutions, bylaw 25 is the tax 2020. Bylaw 26 is amended bylaw 11 for beach and parks. And bylaw 27 is confirming resolutions to date. And I see Councillor Dodge his hand up for that, seconded by Councillor Sageman. That's those three bylaws read the first, second, and third time, passed and signed by the mayor and clerk. All in favor of that motion? That's unanimous. Thank you. And item number 14 is for adjournment. I see Councillor Goodhands with a thumb up for that. It's at 8:15 p.m. Thank you, everyone. For I got a thumbs down on Councillor Dodd. Anyway, thanks, Council, for the good debate tonight on issues. I think we are sort of getting the hang of this Zoom meeting. To the public that was watching, bear with us. It is a different way of doing things, but we want to get back to having our meetings in a room like we used to. We want to get people in the businesses and the restaurants open as quickly as we can. And we just need everybody to stay safe and follow the medical officer of health, and we will do that just as soon as we feel it's safe to do that. So I know people are concerned out there with beach closings, businesses that can't operate. It's going to be a different way of life, but I'm sure if we all work together and make sure we do things right, we'll get there. So stay safe. All in favor of the adjournment?